Sometimes people would say, what is this cheap pianissimo you're doing there, ha ha. Usually my, colleagues, competitors, right? But from the jury, I never heard negative comment. And I would, win a prize and make lots of money. That's not the point. That's a little joke, a little story. More important is what I tell you. Be honest when you do it. Sing your heart out in this music. You can't do this in Bach, but in Tárrega by all means. And don't forget, this is the most beautiful and natural music written for our instrument. Enjoy.
The piece he's talking about is, of course, Tárrega's Capricho Árabe, and I can't imagine a better teacher for this absolute milestone in our repertoire. There's not many people on the planet that can make a guitar sing and sustain as skillfully as Zoran Dukić does. This video is an excerpt from his exhaustive masterclass on the piece. Check out Tonebase Premium for the full 51-minute lesson. If you're quick, you can still get 40% off all subscriptions with our holiday sale. Check it out in the video description.
One of the most beautiful guitar pieces, definitely. It's Tárrega's Capricho Árabe. It's a piece I played all of my life. Lately, not so much, but in my, let's say, first 3 decades of my life, plenty. Actually, I played it, people always get surprised because I won many competitions in my time, and in most of them, I played this piece. I always loved it. People get very surprised when I say this, you play such a simple piece, Capricho Árabe, in big competitions. And I always say, well, in the competitions, one should play pieces he feels most comfortable with, not the pieces one imagines that are complicated. Oh, Nocturnal is a great piece, I'm going to learn that and play it. That's not how it works. One should always find the pieces that he thinks or he finds suit him exceptionally well. I always felt so comfortable with Capricho Árabe. I was in love with it since the very beginning, one of the first recordings I've heard, together with Alhambra. And I say it's one of the most beautiful pieces of guitar repertoire. It's certainly one of the most representative, even if you don't think it's the most beautiful. It's from the period of guitar when Tárrega lived, end of the 19th century, salon music, playing for friends. Actually, when guitar concerts started, the audience was usually between 20 and 50 people, not more than that, not a huge concert halls. And guitar and its own sonority and dynamics, I think, fit ideally in this space and for this amount of people. I could never imagine guitar, in a huge hall with 2,000 people. I do it, we all do it. There's amplification and, louder guitars, carbon strings, everything's getting louder and bumpier. But if you go back to Torres guitar, which is the guitar Tárrega used, this is somehow maybe the foundation of our sound, and Capricho Árabe, its best representative. Yeah. Tárrega composed it around 1880s, somewhere in that decade. First manuscript existent is 1889, but he probably wrote it a few years before that. There are plenty editions, really plenty editions, so I cannot recommend you a single one. What I usually use is the reprint of the first edition, which is from 1901, and where Tárrega was involved in preparing the setting for it. And certainly there are mistakes, plenty questions as usual, but it's kind of a basis of the idea that Tárrega had in mind. There are a couple of manuscripts existing, not a single one. He was obviously writing copies. When somebody would ask him, oh, can I have the score? He would write copies. There were no copy machines. So there's plenty actually of manuscripts, but they're all a bit different and sometimes rashly written, sometimes without any indications of fingerings or slurs or so, and so on. So if I need to recommend something, just take a reprint of the first edition, which is everywhere, readily available online, offline, the most often seen. Funny thing that one can see from the manuscripts is that before its final title, Capricho Árabe, right, Tárrega called it Serenata Árabe or Capricho Morisco, Moorish Capricho, let's say. The influence of the Moors of Muslim Empire, which was in Spain for such a long time. Funny thing, is that first title of Recuerdos de la Alhambra, another great piece of Tárrega and one of the most beautiful for guitar. First title was Cantiga Árabe. So we have Capricho Árabe and Cantiga, meaning song in this case, Cantiga Árabe. Full title of Recuerdos de la Alhambra was Improvisación a Granada Cantiga Árabe. That's what he wrote in the manuscript of it. Anyway, there's a little connection with Capricho Árabe. Arabic, Moorish, obviously we have those modes involved in beautiful lines, such as is most of Spanish music, especially from the south. I will try to go through the whole piece, not bar by bar, but indicating most important things one should take care of, technically and also musically, phrasing-wise, accentuations, and all the most important elements I found of them. All right, let's start with bar 1. It opens with this beautiful harmonic chord on the dominant, right? So we have these 3 notes, right? Now there's something I'd like to tell about harmonics. In order to get proper sonority, or the richest sonority, depending what we want, we have to be, or one has to be very careful where to plug the strings. Now, how do harmonics work on a guitar, right? If you go, this is full length of the string. Here, 12th fret is exactly the middle of it, right? So we get an octave. We get harmonic series, right? Which is octave, 5th, octave, 3rd, 5th, minor 7th, octave, and then a scale, right? That's exactly what we have here, right? Octave, 5th, octave, 3rd, 5th, minor 7th, octave, and now depending on the guitar, scale, and so forth. Okay, so in the middle of the string is octave. Here, it's the 3rd of the string, right? 3rd of the length of the string. So here, as well as here, it's the same harmonic, right? On the 3rd. And then on the 4th, if you cut it in 4 parts of the string, here is not octave, octave, and then octave again, right? Here, exactly 4th of the string, and so on, 5th of the string, 6th, and all mathematically divided. Now, if we play this note near the center of that part of the string, we're going to get very poor sound. Almost doesn't sound. If I move it a little bit here, it sounds, but if I do it here, exactly on that spot, it sounds less. If I go further away, it's going to sound more. But if I divide now this into 4 sections, if I come here, it's not going to be as great as it is a little bit more here, as you can hear it. Hopefully you can hear it. That's color changes, right? Depending on where we play, right? This doesn't sounds a bit muffled, more open, and so forth, right? Now, depending what you want, maybe you want a muffled sound, or kind of good sound. Maybe you want open sound, it depends. So if I hit it here, or if I hit it here, extreme differences. What I recommend, depending on your guitar and tension of your strings, obviously, to search for the place, but avoid absolutely these 2 spots. Go somewhere, either here, if you want a louder or more sonorous sound, balance the chord, or maybe if it's quieter, go somewhere in the middle of the hole, depending on your desire, right? In any case, I prefer, as this is kind of an invitation, opening on the dominant, which has tension, I would just do it here. And let the guitar ring, right? There's no fermata written over this chord, but one can imagine just it's a free, long-lasting chord. It's a white note with the dot, long and free, and it is introduction, right? Now I would let it sound, and we start with this little improvisation. Miniature improvisation on top. All right, let's move to the bar number 2. Now, what's written is, right? With the slurs though, right? Clearly written. A part of the last one, we'll talk about that. But from the beginning, there are slurs written. Now, I'm sure you've heard in other lessons you so carefully watch on tonebase that we don't always have to respect slurs. Depends on a guitar, depends who composed it, depends on the style of music, depends on your own guitar, because Torres guitar or Tárrega's guitar sounded different than yours. It's the basis of how they built, but rather different. Gut strings sound different than nylon string, which sound also different than carbon strings. So slurs react differently. Also, another thing is slurs react differently on different frets, right? If you do slur here, it can sound very different than here, but that's for another lecture about slurs, right? Now, what I want to talk about, everybody has a tendency to prolong this first note and go on, which is beautiful, rubato, typical, most used one, and I use it as well because I think it's pretty. But the problem is then the second note. This is beautiful note, and then we have this silly slur. Sounds horrible. Beautiful, horrible, right? So what do? I don't know what do we do. Try many ways, use 4 frets, different space between them, maybe super quiet, maybe just lifting finger, but it's never really ideal. One thing is not to play rubato on that note and just play. So when it's fast, we don't hear this imperfection of the note. But I want to play it slowly, so I think my best advice is just take the slur out. Depending, so I press pretty, and then faster, and then I put my slurs, right? No problem at all. So that sounds great, right? For me, at least. And there's never problem with pulling off. Right? This idea I will follow throughout the whole piece. In general, if you're sensitive enough with your ears and you are disturbed by the imperfection of the pulled note, or for that matter, even of the hammered on note, ascending and descending slurs, or this, you're gonna take care of it. If you don't hear it, if it doesn't disturb you, you're not gonna. So first thing is try to become sensitive to those non-ideal notes. So if I play really soft, sounds great at the beginning. All the notes are under control, and when we're faster, these small details don't matter, right? It's the same story with fast scales. In fast scales, we do not need to worry about pretty sound. We need to worry about clear sound and clear attack and fast and, so I would never play like this kind of percussive kind of sound if I'm playing something slow and cantabile, right? But for fast things, absolutely ideal. I would never worry about imperfections of hammer on and pull off if I play third wheel lobos. The faster, actually better to have it percussive and not perfect, right? But in this case, when it's cantabile, we really need to take care and be more sensitive about it. Now we come to the end, and very end of second bar and into the third bar. Recommendations, both from Tárrega and Llobet, and many of his students, Tárrega's students, is to play open string and then play this note, which is long note, downbeat of the bar 3, right? Or like this, open, which I think Tárrega wrote, right? Right? This is absolutely fine. But after that, Tárrega wrote this on the second string, and then bar 4, right? Now, I was always disturbed by the difference in the color of this note, open string, and this one, really warm and juicy, right? I want to have the same. I want to have, because it is the same phrase. I know at the time they didn't really worry so much about these details. Maybe also there was not so much difference with the gut strings, especially if they're a bit older, They were more worried about tuning, other sort of stuff. But nowadays, with guitar techniques so advanced, maybe we should take care of the uniformity of the sound of the notes. So I really recommend very much just to play. It's also easier, basically. You can control long note. I think it's ideal. Another point which I forgot to make is when we have pressed note, we can control it. When we have open string, We are impotent. We can't do anything. We can pretend. Maybe something like that, right? But this is ideal. Right? So to resume already in the first 4 bars, we have a couple of, for me, very important issues. How to attack the harmonic, how to play the slur carefully, and how to keep the tonal quality of our melody, right? Especially the quality of the sound, sameness of the sound. As I would say in many lessons, if possible, use the same finger of the right hand. So we can go, and then A, in my case A is my favorite, A, A. It's always the same color. 50 years before Tárrega, Chopin said that he would like to be able every single melody, to be able to play every single melody with the same finger, which is of course impossible on the piano depending on the speed of the melody. Some things are possible, but generally not really. Obviously because he was complaining about it. But he felt, even on piano, that his pinky had different color or timbre than his in piano 4th finger or 3rd. They all have different colors. Same in a guitar. They all have their individuality and their different, on really small scale, sensitive scale, different sound. All right, now we arrive to bar 5, which is simple repetition of what we already heard. So first phrase is repeated twice. Same way, if you like it, bit changed, if you like it. Some musicians will say never repeat twice the same. I don't think it's a necessity to make a difference, depending how convincing you play and how beautiful you play. But sure, you can play harmonic on different places. You can make not so slow the first note, you can play it faster, you can play slur, for example, or you can play it even slower. Whatever you like, huh? Here you can play bigger arpeggio. You have, variety of options. A whole palette of sound and colors is open to you. Totally free. Do not push yourself. If slurs are difficult, play them slower. There's no need to play them super fast, right? Just play it slowly. No problem. If you miss one, like I just did, no problem at all. As long as your line is nice, and especially your last note is nice. All right, now we come to the next phrase, bar 9. This kind of, right? Violin quality or string instrument quality, beautiful and full on the 4th string with the glissandos and typical glissandos of Tárrega's time, which sound great on a guitar, really ideal on a guitar. We have a couple of problems here, right? First, general issue, which maybe now is a good moment to mention. There are plenty of glissandos and portamentos in Tárrega's music, plenty. It was really in the fashion and in the style of playing of the time, almost the norm, right? Tárrega marked lots of them. Also ornamentation, there's plenty of ornamentation in this piece, and as in many pieces of Tárrega, but here particularly there's all this, let's say, Moorish or Arabic ornamentations, little melismas here, or embellishment of one note, many of them written, so plenty of glissandos, plenty of embellishments. Do we have to respect the score? I would say directly, no, we don't. If it sounds all right, certainly do. If there's trouble with it, because of the instrument or whichever other reason, technical, you're not obliged to do it. It is not only me saying that. Let's take example. One of the interesting things is there are recordings of 2 of Tárrega's students. Josefina Robledo, and she became his student. She was his student in the last 5 years of Tárrega's life. She met him in 1904, I think, and then for the next 5 years she was fortunate one to have regular lessons with him. And she was very gifted, very musical. Another person whose recording we have in existence today is Daniel Fortea, great guitarist, important personality. That recording is of lesser quality in all aspects, technical and musical, but still it's a good reference. So Josefina, she was very young when she met Tárrega, and obviously she would, respect her teacher's wishes, and even in her recording she's omitting some of the ornamentations or adding some of glissandos, right? So even at that time, when it was in fashion, his students were not respecting every single one as it is written. Also in different manuscripts, we can see that Tárrega did not repeat them all exactly the same way. Another point is now, 100 years later, when fashion changed and norms, musical norms changed, maybe we don't need to use so much. I don't think there's a point of really trying to emulate exactly how Tárrega imagined this piece. First, because it's impossible to know, and second, because it was a different time.